Welcome to the Small Business Tax Savings Podcast, your weekly dose of accounting and tax tips specific to small business owners. You will be on your way to growing your business and paying the least amount in taxes as legally possible. Here's your host, Mike Jesowshek, CPA.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today's topic is what is strategic planning? Now, this is an add-on to our discussion last week. And last week we talked about how can I set up my business for success in 2023. And if you haven't checked that out yet, do so now. And in that discussion, we discussed taking bookkeeping seriously, updating it regularly, utilizing a cloud-based accounting software, no commingling of funds, and keeping your receipts and documentation on file in a digital file right away. We also talked about tax planning. Start tax planning now. Learn about tax strategies, research tax strategies, but most importantly, start implementing as it's fresh in your mind. Now, the final piece to this discussion of how can I set up my business for success in 2023 is this idea of strategic planning. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So to start everything off, let's talk about this idea of what is strategic planning. In a very simple form, strategic planning in a business is where a business defines its strategy or direction and then makes decisions or plans on how it can get there. Big corporate structures have whole departments that focus on strategic planning. They spend millions of dollars each and every year doing strategic planning. Now, this is not what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about what this means for everyday small business owners like you. So I'm going to break this down into a couple simple practices that an everyday business owner like you and like me can do now in January relatively easily. First, we're going to talk about determining your perfect scenario. Then we're going to talk about doing your 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, and then determining and implementing your 2023 strategic plan. So let's dive through each of those right now. The first one is, what is a perfect scenario planning? This is the fun part. I want you to step away from your business for a half a day, at least a half a day. Find a location or setting that you enjoy, are at peace with, and remove all the noise from your life and your business, and just think, relax. We are looking to see what your perfect scenario in the future would look like. So some probing questions to get you thinking about that perfect scenario. What does your life look like? What do you do with your time? What do you own? Houses, vehicles, businesses, things like that. How much money do you have in investments, in savings, in retirement funds? What is your annual income? Write all this stuff down. Start brainstorming and start to articulate what a perfect scenario would look like for you in 10 years or 15 years. Whatever that number is in your specific scenario, pick that number. So just to get some of your gears moving, here are some examples of some of those things that might come up during this brainstorming session. Again, these are just examples. I want to get some motivators to start getting you thinking about this idea of a perfect scenario. Maybe your perfect scenario is having your personal residence fully paid off. Maybe it's having a vacation home in Florida. Maybe it's working only 2 to 3 days per week. Or maybe it's working only 10 hours per week. Maybe it's something where you want to be able to hike and golf every single day. Maybe you want to own a Lamborghini. Maybe you want to have business profit of $1 million or $5 million or $100,000. Maybe you want investments and or savings greater than $5 million. Or maybe you just want something in investment or savings, or maybe that's not an importance to you. Whatever it is, we want you to start brainstorming. What is that perfect scenario? 10 years, 15 years from now, writing it down. And again, this is your opportunity to dream, your opportunity to think of what would things look like if everything was perfect in 10 or 15 years from now. Now, everyone's strategic plans and goals are going to look completely different, but I want to provide a couple practical examples to serve as a launch pad, just to get you started on this thinking of what can we be thinking about. Next, we're going to be going through a few practices to start building out on that plan. And how do we get there? So we know what our perfect scenario is, but how do we get there? And that's where it comes up to this question. what is a 3 or 5-year plan? This is simply a list of action items and goals that you need to complete in the next 3 or 5 years to make progress on your perfect scenario. The shorter the time frame, the more specific you're going to want to be. The ultimate goal here is to build out a roadmap that's going to take you or lead you to that perfect scenario. What are things that you need to be doing in the next 3 or 5 years to get to that perfect scenario that you outlined? Now, keep in mind that life is constantly changing, and so will your 3 or 5-year plans. So this does not need to be perfect. You're not going to be graded on this. You're not going to be saying, oh, what happens if complete change and you go do a detour? That stuff happens. Take some time, get some of the stuff on paper, and we're going to adjust this as you go along. But get something down as it will help you lead, help you see that vision. So again, here are some examples to help get your gears moving. You might have a goal to refinance to a shorter mortgage so you can pay off their personal residence quicker. You might have a goal of hiring a CEO in your business to start taking over that day-to-day so you can start backing off, reducing your hours. You might want to expand into a completely new market for your business, or purchase a new company, or can take a completely different career path. You might want to purchase a rental property personally. You might want to acquire a competitor. Again, these are just some ideas and thoughts to help get those gears moving on. What do you need to do in the next 3 to 5 years to make room and to move forward and closer to that perfect scenario that you brainstormed on, that you dreamed about? Finally, the question comes down to, what is an annual strategic plan? Now that we have a perfect scenario, we have a 3 or 5-year plan, we want to focus on this year. What are things that we want to do within the next 12 months? We have a roadmap of where you want to be both professionally and personally in the next 3 and 5 years. Again, this roadmap should be done for you both professionally and personally. This is not just a business thing. An annual strategic plan is sitting down and planning out what needs to be done this year to start chipping away at those future goals that you have. This is going to be the most specific of your plans with specific action items on things you're going to do this year, or goals or things that you need to be accomplishing this year, again, to start chipping away at that goal of whatever that perfect scenario might be. Again, here are some ideas and thoughts to help get those gears moving. You might say, I want to hire a social media marketing firm by March 2023. You might say, I want to grow social followers by 150 per month. Or you want to close 5 new sales per month, or hire 2 new staff members by the end of the year. You might want to max out your retirement accounts, or you might want to put, $2,500 per month into some type of brokerage account or investment or savings account. You might want to hire your kids and fund their Roth to help getting them set up for retirement. Now, the next 2 examples are, you might want to set up and execute a bookkeeping system by the end of January. Now, just a little bit of hint, this is something we talked about last week. You might want to start doing tax planning. You might want to plan out sessions in June, in October, where you're going to actually knock down and implement this. Again, as a hint, these are things that we talked about last week. So again, that annual strategic plan are actionable items that you're going to do this year to start chipping away at your perfect scenario. What are those things that you want to get done? So let's go to the overarching question that we've been talking about this week and last week. How can I set up my business for success in 2023? And again, as a reminder, we started this discussion last week. If you haven't checked out that, do so now, where we talked about both bookkeeping and tax planning and why you need to make those important here in 2023. But to summarize the strategic planning piece a little bit, take a little bit of time and put a strategic plan together. This includes building out your perfect scenario, your dream, your 3 and 5 year plans. What do you need to get done within the next 3 and 5 years? Your annual strategic plan. What are some of those action items that you need to do this year to start chipping away at those goals that you have? Check back throughout the year during your regular board meetings and see how you are progressing on those goals and plans. See how you are progressing on that strategic plan that you built out for 2023. Again, this does not need to be perfect. You're going to constantly be revisiting and adjusting this, but it will keep you focused on your end goal instead of constantly being stuck within your business and never thinking about deeper, never thinking anything past what are you going to do? What do you have to get done tomorrow? You can put as much or as little time into this as you want. The first step is to just get started. Have fun with it. Involve your family. Dream big during this process. But whatever you do, again, just get started. Take some time. Take a half a day to go through your perfect scenario, your 3 and 5 year plan, your strategic plan for this year. Get something down on paper, and it's a start. This doesn't have to be formal. This doesn't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to be some big thing. Get ideas on paper and then revisit it. Use those monthly board meetings that you have to revisit this idea of a strategic plan, to see how you're progressing, to adjust it if you need to. January is a time to do a refresh for both you personally and your business, and it allows you to get on the right track to start the year. My hope is that what we discussed today, what we discussed last week, are action items that you can do and stick to. Again, we all make resolutions. We all make plans to do better, but most of us fall short and we stop. Get an accountability partner to ensure that you're sticking with it throughout the year. Again, I hope that this serves as motivation. Take some time out. Again, revisit what we did last week. Get your bookkeeping set up for success. Do your bookkeeping regularly. Get on a schedule. Utilize cloud software to make it as easy as possible. Remove those barriers that make some of these things hard or difficult to do. Get your bookkeeping set up correctly for 2023. Start tax planning. Start researching. Start learning. Listen to our podcast. Read our blogs. Start learning about the tax strategies that are available to everyday business owners, regardless of your size, and start to implement those. That's the most important piece. We can learn all we want, but until we start to implement that, that's where the buck stops. And finally, put together a strategic plan. Take a half a day. Get away from your business. Spend some time on you and your business personally. Put together a strategic plan so you can get out of the day-to-day and start thinking long-term. Start thinking about where you want to be in the future. Hopefully this was helpful. I want you to take action on this. I want you to take what we talked about today and actually make a point to make this happen. Get an accountability partner. Do what you need to do to make this the best year ever for both you and your business. Thank you for listening to another episode, and I will see you guys next week.
This has been another episode of the Small Business Tax Savings Podcast. If you enjoy our weekly episodes, please leave a review and share with other business owners. You can find previous episodes and more information at www.taxsavingspodcast.com. Thanks for listening and have a great day.